you know, you hear the old folks used to say back in the day, if you can get up and breathe and open your eyes and be in your right mind,
right,
you feel good, man. You know, and it was something I had a little head cold earlier this week, but on my birthday, the Lord took it away.
oh,
And I was like, let's go, let's get it going. So I feel awesome. And I also tell people when they say, well, how you doing today? I say, I'm breathing, because, hey, if you're able to breathe.
right, right.
You know, because
right.
some people, they're not able to get up and breathe. Some people not able to even speak that they're breathing.
Right, right.
And so I just like to say, hey, I'm here, I'm breathing, and it was an awesome birthday. I stayed at home, and I had two of my favorite children come by last evening with their cars that they made for me.
Wow.
And one even slipped a 20 in there. So,
No.
yes. So,
Got you some lunch money.
got me some lunch money. And I believe she's like 7 years old.
Oh, man.
So I thank Jira and Bruce Taylor Jr. for coming by and celebrating my birthday. I really appreciate it.
So you saying we need to pass the collection plate a little more, get some dinner money?
I'm not going to say
Okay.
that, but you know what I say. If you want to, you do what you do. I'm not going to say that, Pastor. I'm not going to say that.
Well, we really do celebrate your life, and it's what I'm excited about, and I've shared this with you privately, but what I'm excited about even more is this new season that you're embracing, this new assignment. How does that feel from supporting your father,
Yes.
and being really that support role to so many others for quite a while? How does it feel walking in these new stilettos?
Pastor, it feels great. It feels like every time I go downtown, or even every time I take a phone call
Right.
from someone who my father has touched or I've known in my life, or they play a role in our life, it feels, it's a word that's indescribable.
Right.
Because I feel my dad's presence with me every time that happens. I feel him directing me and saying, don't worry about that right now.
Right.
Or just stay focused on this. And especially when I go downtown and I sit in the same seat that was his.
It's got to be an honor.
It is. And that's why I say it's indescribable. It's hard to put into words. It's a feeling.
Right.
And it's almost like when you sit in that chair, and it's a little smaller for me than it was for him, that I feel like he covers me and wraps me in his arms when I'm sitting in that chair.
Wow. I remember at your, at the quick swearing in.
Yes.
At the town hall, city hall, I'm sorry.
Right.
As I was framing the prayer, and, you think of words to say, and I've heard a lot of people say, you got big shoes to fill. And I got to be honest, I didn't feel that in the prayer. If you remember, there was a piece of the prayer where I just felt in my spirit, Lord, give her the ability to walk in the stilettos that you have tailor-made for her. So how do you balance your father's legacy, but also your unique assignment? What you feel called to do while also still honoring his legacy?
Pastor, that is something, honestly, it sounds like a difficult question, but to be honest with you, it's not that hard to do.
Right.
And I say that because my dad and I, that was my buddy.
Right. Right.
So we talked. We talk often, and even when there were special projects or bills or things that he had going on, and the many, many trips that we took together to Atlanta, we discussed them. And so we bounced things off of each other, even in my life that I had going on with my work, and Daddy, how should I handle this? He did the same for me.
Wow.
So a lot of things that comes to me and that comes before me, I kind of look back and chuckle, because all the time we did not agree. You know,
Wow.
we had that same mind frame too. You know, if we strongly believe in something, we will listen. And that's one thing I did admire about my dad that he passed on to me, is to learn to listen and learn to take opinions from everyone.
Right.
Listen, but if you still feel like God is leading you to a certain way, you have to follow the will of the Lord.
That's right.
And everything I do, and I've told you before and I've told others, I ask God first to guide me. You know, first, God, lead me, guide my tongue, because I know if I do my own tongue, there's no telling what's going to come out. So
you're right. You and me both. He's still working on it.
Right. So those are just my daily prayers, to say, Lord, lead me. And then it's helpful to have my dad in my life 46 years, to just be there and listen to me and me listen to him and learn. You know, sometimes people say that, you know, these politicians, they stay in office so long, but they never teach anybody anything. And one thing I can say about my father, he didn't just teach me, he taught others. A lot of people that are now in office, they came through our campaigns. They came and they had talks with him. People tell me all the time about, he took me on a road trip and showed me this. He gave me a book and said, read this. So he was one of those that I think most would agree, at least they told me, that he trained up the younger generation so that they could carry on different parts of politics that help the community. And it's up to you whether or not you follow those guidelines and tweak it to be your own. But as I said, for me, a lot of it feels driven within myself, conversations that aren't new. I mean, even when we talked about the sales tax bill that I wanted to push on the floor, that's not a new bill. No, a lot of these things that we're facing right now, Zaddy and others have been facing for over 20-some years.
Wow.
You know, we talk about the outer loop. I had the plans for the outer loop sitting up in the house when I was in elementary school, and now we've at least got a mile out of it. You know, so these are plans that have been discussion pieces in the home, where we've given our ideas, we've given our suggestions. There have been some of my social study projects growing up.
Right.
And to see those things come to fruition have been awesome. And those are things that I like to keep going. Like you said, putting my own twist to it.
Yeah.
But also remembering, you know, we have foundation. We have a foundation, and we really do have a good foundation. But I would like to see us all work more together in unity, so that it's not my project.
That's right.
You know, it's not Thad's project. It's not John Knight's project, Alva Holmes' project. It's our project as a community.
Wow. So how's the adjustment? You got your first, few weeks under your, it's first week. First 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks and 1 week.
We
did 1 week of the regular session, and then the governor called on Wednesday a special session.
Wow.
So right now, we have not dealt with much on the floor.
Okay.
We did pass the athletics bill last week, but we have not tackled much on the floor. But what I can say that our leadership has worked very hard behind the scenes.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that we're dealing with the CARES Act project with the COVID money, I'll just say one of the main issues that was being pushed initially was a lot of funding going to our parks and landmarks.
Okay.
And our leadership, Leader Daniels, Senator Singleton, and Chairman Chris England, they worked hard to get that moved out. And so now that we receive more funding, hopefully going towards the rural areas, expanding the broadband, education, telemedicine, things like that in the healthcare field, where money should be going with this one-time grant money or money coming in from federal dollars for our people. So we're trying to do our best to push more of this money back into the community. I know parks and landmarks are important, but I think we all have our own agendas at the same time. And so we have to make sure that we include our community and where money really needs to go. And that's what we're working on.
Awesome. I mean, so you're seeing these challenges, and it's good to hear about money's being allocated to the rural areas,
Yes.
which of course, that's on all of our hearts. Previously passed it in Lowndes County.
Yes.
You're still a member down there in Lowndes County.
Yeah, yes. I love my membership. First Baptist Whitehall.
That's right. That's right.
That I don't think they've gotten a pastor. We've gotten a pastor yet.
Y'all ain't got one.
No. So, we've had that conversation with Deacon, and you're still my pastor.
That's right. Always. Wherever I am.
Always will be. And when you got the Hutchinson, you were in the middle of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So you have not preached in the pulpit or been installed since you were there. And
right.
so, but you've still been my pastor throughout, and I think everybody knows that. And so, yeah, I do have a heart when you say that down in Whitehall, because
right.
that's where my church is located. I came under you as a pastor at Whitehall. And also, like I tell people, we have, I have connections with Montgomery County, where my father grew up, and I have connections in Wilcox County, and even in my own district, I now have Raymer and Snowden. And Snowden is home to me also for my grandparents. So rural areas are very dear and near to my heart, and especially the expansion, the true expansion of broadband. Sometimes we dress it up and say, hey, we're putting broadband here, but ensuring that we get the true expansion of broadband, because we have students down there that really need an education, not just students, but adults also.
Right.
And sometimes it's hard for them to go online and receive the quality type of education that they need, especially during these times when we've been homeschooling, virtual schooling due to the COVID pandemic.
I mean, and you think about churches that are having to adjust to, trying to be on Facebook Live and do their Bible study and all of these types of things is so important in those rural areas to be able to have what is needed, not only through the week, but at all times, to make sure that everyone is equipped
Yes.
with what they need for life. And so I appreciate that.
And also, we've spoken of a mutual friend of ours, and we were saying that he's still going through church on the telephone.
Yeah.
And he lives in a rural area up in the Macon County area.
Wow.
And so, but one thing I can say, they have stabilized their financial stability within that church.
Right.
But they are still going through, 3 years later, they're using telephone for communication for church services.
I mean, everybody is trying to navigate the space. I don't, even though I was doing like Facebook Live and things of that nature, if you really were not equipped before the pandemic, it was really like a do or die.
It was.
And the pandemic has exposed the lack of that infrastructure. And it's almost like God uses these moments to expose what should have been dealt with all this, all the time. And so being able to see it from the church perspective, but then our students, that is definitely something that I really hope that you guys can work through. Anything else in there?
Well, I just want to say this. I congratulate you on the transition into the media era, social media era with your church.
Yeah.
You all have done an awesome job over at Hutchinson with your media and your programs, Sunday services. And a lot of people have reached out and appreciated how you've been able to bring that word from wherever you were.
Right.
Outside the country,
Yeah.
you were still bringing the word to the people. And so we appreciate you and your freedom to let the Lord work through you and how to work through to touch our souls even back here in Montgomery and around the world. So
I just commend the congregation for being flexible. I mean, I never forget being elected that Sunday, coming in that Monday. Okay, what are we gonna do? And you build up that infrastructure from mobile giving to setting up the platforms, for social media, and then helping people to understand that it's a greater tool for ministry, not just to get us through a pandemic, but it makes things a little bit better going forward into the future. You know, if we just do this for pandemic's sake, and then we go back once things kind of seem to be normal, we've lost a valuable opportunity. I think most impactful, every day we do a prayer call.
Yes.
I mean, I sit from my iPad and I watch the numbers go up some days to over 300 people,
Yes.
and they're from all across the country. I'll never get a chance to meet them. Probably, you never, and now even bringing in the Facebook and YouTube piece, you're reaching people that are saying, if it were not for this daily word, I don't know how I would be able to, how I'd be able to manage. And, when you think about what's happening with our city and all of the crime and things of that nature, things are kind of off. When you think about being in isolation,
Yes.
When you're stressed about finance, stressed and in your head about who's COVID positive, who's done it. I mean, you lose kind of balance, and I think in part the mental factor of this pandemic is something that we need to discuss because the spirits of people are out of whack.
Yes.
And that ties into the manifestation of crime and all of this conflict, because we've got internal conflict that we haven't worked through. We haven't worked through it. And so of course people who are not happy with themselves produce unhappiness around them.
Yeah.
People that are fighting with themselves internally are going to fight externally. And so it's been a lot to balance, and you can, and for me as a pastor, keeping the people fed spiritually, but also balancing that with encouraging them to get their vaccinations, encouraging them to wear their masks. We've also implemented some fitness programs and encouraging people, get that nutrition intact, building up the total man. I think that's so important for this moment, so I appreciate that.
It is important. I'm gonna have to get on your nutrition and but also, Pastor, you mentioned that you were doing this at Hutchinson, since you've been at Hutchinson. But I have to say, you started your daily prayer calls at Night in the Flame.
Back in 2016.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You've been doing your daily prayer calls in the mornings and keeping us all on the right path to start our day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that during that time I was exercising.
Yeah.
So I would listen to you as I would exercise early in the morning around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and you would be on, and that was part of my inspiration. I'd probably walk about 3-4 miles by the time you were done. But it was enlightening and helpful for us to start our day back then under that Night in the Flame.
Mm-hmm.
So this is nothing that you just started. You're not new to it, but you've always been there to feed the people, and that's something I can always appreciate about you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that out because, as many people probably know, we are in the midst of a transition. I'll be, transitioning out as pastor of Hutchinson. In fact, my last Sunday will be the 30th of January, and people asked, it's kind of, before they asked how I was doing, they were like, are you going to keep the prayer call going? And I have assured everyone, no matter where I am, we're going to keep that, because you're right. The Lord put Igniting the Flame in my heart. This was right around really before Facebook started the live
right
option.
Calls.
We were just doing conference calls.
Yes.
And so I stopped doing a lot of that. And I'll never forget one of the seasoned pastors. He's a retired pastor, and he asked about whether we could do some type of a prayer meeting. And I had really kind of felt it in my spirit that, you know, we need some type of prayer gathering for people, because I could just feel the pressure. I knew I was facing the stress and the pressure. I knew the people were too. And so we have done that. I think about it, 20 months every single day. Now, Igniting the Flame was just 5 days.
It was.
But we have prayed every day for 20 months. And even on vacation, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, I get up, people say, you take a vacation. No, I ain't taking a vacation for prayer. So wherever we've been from, in this country, we've continued to pray. And I'm just glad that you reminded me of that, because that's something the Lord had to remind me of, that, hey, you're not new to this.
No, you're not.
As we would say, I'm not new to it, I'm true to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is so true. That is so true. So true.
You want me to take a break?
We can
Give you a
take,
break.
yeah, we'll take a short break, just so we can get our callers in. If you have any questions or concerns, we'd like the listening audience to have a chance to sound off. And also, just I'll remind you again at the end that we want to remind you all about the free COVID testing and the warming stations, and also the free mask when we return.
Okay, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with Representative Penni McClammy. Her show here on the Big KD.